Hey folks, Andrew the Fulgor Milano guy here. Today's video is going to be all about the new speed oven. That is a combi oven with a conventional cooking modes combined with microwave functionality as well. So this is the oven. This is an earlier rendition of it. You may notice on your oven that you have a larger clock display. The accessories that come with this speed oven are a rack that can be on multiple levels inside the oven, and we'll see that in a bit. A baking sheet, and then a rack that's used specifically for microwave functionality or combined modes that use the microwave function as well. Do not use this rack when using microwave. Do not use this baking pan when using microwave functionality. This is the only accessory that can be used during microwave functions, whether that's combined or strictly microwave. You can see that we have 3 positions for this rack. Myself, typically, I use the rack down in this position. Again, do not use this rack when using microwave functionality. The proximity of the metal wire to the metal sidewalls will create arcing, and you'll get sparking and perhaps even interference with the electronics. With the baking sheet, let's say you're doing some bacon or some frozen fries or whatever, you can put them on this baking sheet to cook. I typically do most of my cooking or conventional cooking at this level because I will use the convection fan and heat, and also the broil element at the same time for a lot of times if I'm doing conventional cooking inside the oven, that is without microwave functionality. And of course, you can leave the glass turntable in place in any of the modes that you're cooking in. You don't have to remove it if you're using conventional elements or anything like that. It's perfectly fine. Even the plastic turntable support and the little turntable guide can be left in during conventional cooking modes. Another thing you can do with the baking sheet, you'll notice that you can put it underneath on these supports. So if you're cooking something directly on the rack, like maybe a frozen pizza or something like that, and the cheese is dripping, you'll catch it on this baking sheet rather than dripping down on top of the glass turntable. I'm going to take you through the electronics, all the settings and functions and different cooking modes, and we'll even go through an example of baking a potato using the speed functionality. That is the combination of conventional cooking elements, radiant elements, and microwave functionality. On your display, when the unit is not turned on, you will see your date and your time, and you'll see a dimly lit power icon. So we'll touch that, hold it for about 2 seconds, and you'll see the display come up. Here we have just the display. This isn't a touch screen or anything like that. All of your interaction happens through this display pad, which doubles as a touchpad. On the professional versions of this oven, you will also see a second display touchpad on this side with shortcuts for various recipes and cooking modes. By default, the highlighted icon is for cooking, for the various cooking modes. And we can cycle through the various starting points using these arrow keys. This is your enter button, or OK, when you want to make a selection. This is your light button that turns the light in the oven cavity on and off. And when you're cooking, as you can see, now it's timed out because I didn't make a choice. When you're cooking, the oven light will be on, but eventually it will time out during the cooking process. And at any time, if you want to see what's going on inside the oven, you can just touch the light icon. Of course, it's not available now because the oven is off. So I just turn it back on. Then I can turn the light on to look inside. Also available, even without a cooking mode, is the minute timer, the minute minder. So at this point, even if you just want to set a minute minder, I know a lot of people will use their phones, but you do have the functionality in here, whether it's cooking or not. These are hours, these are minutes. You can't set seconds. So typically, if I'm using this, I need to set a timer for 5 minutes. And you press enter, and you'll see it will start to count down. Since this is the only functionality that's happening right now on the oven, that's all that's been displayed. We'll see later on when we're actually cooking how you can also set a minute minder, and it will be displayed down here while you're seeing the functionality of the cooking. At this point, if we want to cancel the minute minder, which is what I do want to do, I don't want the minute minder going off while we're doing other demonstrations. If I just hold the timer icon, you'll see it will go to 0, and we can go back to our main menu. Before we get into the cooking menus, which is going to be the one you use the most, let's look at our settings and let's look at recipes. Recipes aren't really recipes per se, they're more programs. When we go in and have a look at them, and we'll look at preset recipes, we'll look at personal recipes later. First of all, if we look at preset, these are all the factory preset recipes. Bread pizza first, meat, poultry, fish, vegetables, and pies or baking. And you can navigate however you like through these options with the arrow keys. And to enter into one of these sub-menus, we can press the enter button. Now, bread pizza first, you have the option to choose fresh, if you're doing fresh cooking or fresh baking of the bread or the pizza, versus frozen. So if you're doing a frozen pizza, you can go down there. We'll press frozen, we'll press enter. Pizza margherita, of course, being an Italian appliance, they would have margherita pizza, lasagna, stuffed pizza, cannelloni pasta. These are not recipes. They're not built in. There's not a recipe that you can look up. They're programs. So if we choose one, we can choose the weight of the pizza. So a 0.44 pound pizza or a 0.66 pound pizza. And we choose that program. It will tell us that we're going to use the round grill or the round grate. The weight is pre-chosen. The cooking time will be 7 minutes and the preheat is no. If we want to modify any of these settings, we can press the arrow key, and here you can see we can change the weight to the weight of our pizza that we're going to be cooking, and we can lock that in with enter. We can change the cooking time for ourselves to say 9 minutes. We want it more well done. We press enter. This is our new program. We've modified the factory preset to a different weight and to a different cooking time. And we can save that now if we want. So by default, the arrow is pointing at save. It's highlighted. It's telling us if we press enter, we can save it. So the recipe is saved now. If we want to go back and check for our customized recipe, so I'm going back with the back arrow key. I go into personal. I go into bread pizza first. We go down to frozen. There's pizza margherita in the list now. If I press enter, you can see our customized weight and our customized time. and we can start that recipe or program. And now we can see this is the cooking mode that is chosen. It's going to be a combined microwave and conventional convection element with fan, and it's telling us to insert the food. And so at this time, we would put in our rack, we would put our pizza in on top of the rack and close it. It's telling us to press start, so it's sensed the door opening and closing. We press start, and it starts the program. So you can see the turntable's moving. The ring element is energized, so it's starting to heat up. The fan inside will be cycling to blow hot air across the pizza. This will give you your browning. This will help the cheese to melt. And you may have just now heard the microwave turn on. So it's combining microwave functionality and convection radiant heat to cook the pizza. So since we don't actually have a pizza in there, we'll cancel it. We can cancel it by pressing enter. That pauses the program. And then we can go back out with our back key. So going back to the presets, we can take another look at some of the other preset programs. Let's say we're cooking meat in here. We have the option to choose whole or in pieces. So if you're doing a whole leg of lamb or pieces, again, lamb, mixed grill, sausage, these are not actual recipes. They're just programs. So here the default is 1.5 pounds. It's going to cook it for 20 minutes. Cooking on the rectangular grid or the rectangular grate or rack, if we were to start it, you will see it's just going to cook using the broil element. So anytime that it's going to tell you to use the rectangular rack is not going to have microwave functionality in it. So it's doing the preheat right now. It will continue to do the preheat. Once it's reached its temperature, it will prompt you to put the food in. So these are how the different programs work, and you can experiment with them to see which ones you like, which ones work for you, but we're not going to go through all of them in this video. So we'll cancel that. We'll head back out, and you can play around with these recipes or programs and customize them to your liking, save them for your own presets, and go back and revisit them. So if there's a frozen meal, a frozen lasagna that you buy that you cook on a weekly basis, you can program it to your liking and then just easily revisit that program and fire it up and do your cooking over and over again. Now, let's talk about settings. What are the settings that you can do for this speed oven? So we'll press enter to go in. Inside this submenu, we have setup and we have service, which are like tools. As you can see the tool symbol. We can look at the service first. Inside the service menu, we have event logs, main voltage, which is ghosted. We can't do anything with that. And demo mode. Event logs, if a oven has an error or has a fault, it will store the fault in the event logs. So you can see all the history going all the way back to 2019, 2020, if there was an error code or a fault for that oven. Once you're in the event log, if you were to call service, you can report to them what the code is, and they will be able to evaluate what the issue might be and whether or not service needs to be sent out. And if service needs to be sent out, this code will help them provide the proper part and advise the servicer of what the issue could be and how to address it. Main voltage, again, is ghosted. This unit can be wired to 240 or 208. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do any configuration changes in the menu. Demo mode, you're not going to use that as a regular user. This is if you're putting it in a trade show or at a dealer. You can put it into demo mode. Right now it's off. We can change it to on. And then we go back. We turn the unit off. And at this point, if we want it to go into demo mode, we have to turn off the breaker or cut the power to the oven. When it reboots, it will be in demo mode. And demo mode basically just does some automatic showing of the settings or showing of a cooking mode and things like that. It's not useful for the end user. So we'll go back in and make sure that we turn off the demo mode. Because the next time there was a power outage, it would come back on in demo mode. We'll head back to settings. This is going to be relevant or important for you. Here's where you can change the language. So you have options. Right now it's for English. You can go Italian, German, French, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese, Polish, and some other that I don't know. Turkey, Russian, Arabic. So those are the different languages. This is an older model. Newer models you will see English and English US. But we'll leave it. We didn't make any changes, so we'll leave it on English. You can set the date. So we'll press enter. You can choose your date format that you like. Day, month, year, year, month, day, year. This is more traditionally North American, so we'll use that style. We are already in 2022, but if we needed to, we can change the year, and then we can change the day. So today is the 26th and of April. Oh, we want to go up to 4. Oh, now I gotta go back and change this to 26th. I'm gonna press enter, and now our date has been changed. Here we can change the units that are used, whether or not you want to use pounds or kilograms, whichever you're more comfortable with, or Fahrenheit or Celsius for the temperature settings, whichever you're more comfortable with. So we can just press enter, and we'll get back to our main setup screen. Brightness. Now by default, I believe the standby is on medium. You can see that it gets very dim. So this is giving you an example of how bright it's going to be when the unit is not being used. And if you go down to low, it's basically, you can't even see it. Maybe in the darkest of night, you'd be able to see something on the display. But if you don't want anything, you don't want to see this on the display all the time, you can turn it down to low. However, I like to keep mine at high. I like to be able to see the clock and the date, even in standby mode. And then also when it's turned on, you can adjust the brightness of the display when you're actually using it. I keep both on high. Here we can also set the time, and we'll do that. You can choose a 12-hour clock versus a 24-hour clock. We'll choose 12, that's what I like to use. The time right now is 11:33 a.m. So we'll choose a.m. and then we will set the time 11, and then we'll move over to the minutes, and we'll go to 33. We can just hold the arrow button. And it's important, you should set the time, because as we'll see when we go into the different cooking modes, you can set timers that are actually based on the time, either delayed cooking, or you can have the oven stop cooking at a specific time. We'll show that later. And then finally, we can set the volume level of the beeper. So right now it's at low. You can go to medium and you can go to high. I don't know how well that'll translate to the video recording, but whatever your preference is. So those are all the different settings that you can do to configure the oven according to your likes. And we'll go back out to the main menu, and now we'll get into the actual cooking functionality of the oven. Here we have traditional cooking, and by traditional cooking, I'm talking about conventional radiant heat. We have just convection, so this is a convection ring element combined with a fan. That is the one cooking mode. This cooking mode is the convection element with the fan combined with also the broil element. Now this oven doesn't have a bake element down at the bottom. It's only broil and only convection element at the back, right? Because obviously we have a turntable down at the bottom. We can't have a traditional bake element down at the bottom of the oven. This mode is just the broil element combined with the fan, but not with the convection ring element in the mix. And then just straight up broil. So if you want to crisp up a salmon that you've been smoking or baking or whatever, you can use just the broil, put it in there for a couple seconds, or you want to melt some cheese on your nachos, you're going to use this mode here. Then we go down to microwave cooking, and here we have defrost by time, so there's a little clock symbol there. Defrost by weight. Straight up microwave cooking, you're just doing microwave popcorn, you're reheating your lunch, whatever it is, you're going to use this mode. And then here's our combined mode. So you can combine microwave cooking with the broil element, or you can combine microwave cooking with the convection element and convection fan. When I'm doing combi cooking, this is the one I use most often. Or I'm using straight microwave, or some of the defrost options. If I'm doing conventional cooking in here, again, let's say I'm cooking some frozen fries on the pan. This is the mode that I like to use because it's the most intensive. You've got radiant heat coming down from the top. You also have hot air being blown across from the convection element. And then typically what I would do, let's say I'm doing some frozen fries, I almost always put my rack down at this level. That way it gets the full air path coming across it. And it's a decent distance from the broil element up at the top, so things aren't going to get burnt or cooked too quickly on the outside. So we want to go into this cooking mode. We just press enter. Here's where we can have our options to change the starting temperature. Typically you're going to be cooking, we do a lot of cooking at 375. You can also hold it to adjust the temperature, and you can adjust the temperature while you're cooking on the fly. Here you can see we've got arrows on either side as well. Even though we've chosen this cooking mode, we can change to a different cooking mode if we want right from this menu without having to go back to the main menu. So you've got a lot of options of how you can navigate through the system. So this is the one I want to use. I'm going to set it to 375. See here, it's prompting me. It's telling me that I can make adjustments here with the arrow keys. And to start it, I press enter. And you can see once it turns red, the icons turn red. That means it's energized. It means it's cooking. If I press start again, you can see it pauses. So it goes white, tells me it's not energized. And I have a display of the residual heat that's actually in the oven right now. So I'm going to close the door. I'm going to start this, and you will see this residual heat indicator will continue to climb until it gets to our set temperature of 375. We'll get a beep, and then we know that the oven is preheated. Another thing you want to be aware of when operating this oven is there's an active cooling fan inside to protect the electronics from overheating. When you're cooking conventionally, there's a thermostat inside that waits until the oven cavity gets to a certain temperature, and then you will hear the cooling fan come on and you will feel air blowing out through this gap between the console and the door. This is normal. This is why you can install this oven without any additional ventilation requirements behind it, because it has active cooling that will exhaust the heat out through this slot. When we go and show the microwave functionality, you will notice that the cooling fan operates right from the very beginning. You'll feel that cooling fan, feel that air coming out of there. So you can see it actually heats up very quickly. The cavity is ready in only in a few minutes it takes to get up to 375. At this point, we can set a timer, and we have 3 options in here. You can set a minute minder like we did before already, earlier in the video. That will not have an effect on the functionality of the oven. So we can just set a regular minute minder, say for 2 minutes, and we go back and we can see that the countdown started down here, and so we can check it at any time. If we want to go back in and cancel it like we did before, we can just hold that icon and we've canceled our minute minder. The other option is we can set a cooking time. In this case, if we set this timer for cooking time, let's say we want to cook for 20 minutes. We'll take that up to 20 minutes. What it will do is when the time expires at 20 minutes, stop time. So you can see that the stop time was set to 12 o'clock p.m. because it automatically calculated, it's 11:40 now, I want to stop cooking in 20 minutes, so it's going to stop at 12 p.m. I can go back in and check that. If I change it to 22 minutes, let's say, and press enter, it automatically calculates the stop time at 12:02. You can also hear now that it's already preheated. So I set the stop time at 12:02. If we were to let this run for the 22 minutes, which we're not going to do, you can see here's the time. It's going to end at 12:02. There's 21 minutes left. And the oven will actually shut off at the end of that countdown. So that's a pretty neat feature. This way you don't overcook your food. And again, like I mentioned earlier, at some point during the cooking, the oven light will turn off automatically. You can just touch the icon to turn it on and see what's going on inside. So we're going to stop this now, and the next demonstration I'm going to do will be a combined cooking mode. So as you know, we were doing some demonstration of conventional cooking or radiant heat cooking. You can still see, even though the oven's turned off, it will indicate a residual heat of inside the oven cavity. Once it gets down below a certain threshold, that cooling fan we talked about before will turn off on its own, and the heat will continue to basically cool off inside the oven cavity. What I want to demonstrate now, and this is something that I use my speed oven for, typically if you're going to be, say, cooking some baked potatoes, usually in a conventional oven, you're going to cook your baked potatoes, especially ones this size, roughly about an hour it takes in the oven. In the speed oven, you can do it in half the time because you're going to assist the conventional cooking with microwave. And the way microwaves work is they are emitted at a certain frequency that excites water molecules. And so microwaves will pass through food to excite the water molecules throughout the food, and those excited water molecules will rub together, creating friction and creating heat. Microwaves don't pass through metal. So you'll see that they have a metal cavity inside. You will also see on the glass, and if you've ever wondered why the glass is made the way it is with these little holes, these holes are the size necessary to prevent microwaves from getting through. The microwave wavelength or amplitude is actually such that it can't get through these little openings or these holes. If the holes were bigger, then the microwaves would be able to pass through the glass. So this demonstration is going to be baking a potato in combined mode. So we'll go through the whole demonstration. I'm going to use this, the round rack, because this is the only one that you can use when you're doing a microwave functionality. I'm going to poke the holes in my potato so that the inner steam can escape without splitting the skin and exploding the potato. If you have multiple potatoes, usually I'm doing probably 3 or so at the same time. You can space them out on the rack. In this case, if we only do have one, I'm going to put it in the middle of the rack. So I'll close the door. I'm going to turn the unit on. We're going into cooking options, and I'm going to go down to the convection combined with microwave functionality. So I'll press enter. Now here we have 3 options once again, and we have to do all of them. They all have their own defaults. Of course, default for time is 0. I'm going to set this to 30 minutes. So right now that is seconds. So we have to hold it until we get up to 30 minutes. Don't worry, it gets there pretty quick. Set our potato for 30 minutes, our time. You can set your temperature. So I typically put mine at 375. And again, this is going to be convection fan. So there's going to be hot air blowing across it. That's how you're going to get that crispy skin, that baked potato feel or texture. And then here you can also set the wattage or the power of the microwaves. So your options are 450 is the top. So this is a 900 watt microwave. But when you're doing combined mode, the top or the highest you can go to is 450 watts. So if 900 is full power, 450 is half power, which means the magnetron that runs the microwaves, that emits the microwaves, will only run half the time, say 30 seconds out of every minute. So it's an assist to the conventional cooking. Or you can keep it at 300, which is the default, or you can go to 150. It all depends on how much microwaving you want to assist the regular cooking. I'm going to leave it at the 300 watt default, so that's about 1/3, so that's about 20 seconds out of every minute that the microwaves are going to be running, which is going to be plenty over that half an hour period. And we just press enter to get it started. And you'll see we already have some residual heat from our previous demonstration, so it's not going to take long for it to get up to 375, our set point. It reminds us that our wattage is set at 300, and here's our countdown timer. So you can hear the cooling fan has just come on. I can feel warm air blowing out, and I can hear the magnetron running. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful on the new Fulgor Milano speed oven. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at the address shown below. And happy cooking, and enjoy your Fulgor Milano appliance. Thank you so much. Take care.